So a big thank you first for AUB and JCP for organizing this and for inviting me to moderate a panel on a topic I think doesn't get spoken about enough, which is scaling up. Wissam said that a lot of people, when they hear the word entrepreneurship, to them it's synonymous with startups. But the companies that really make a difference in terms of job creation and wealth generation are those that are actually scaling. And that's the segment of entrepreneurs that Endeavor focuses on, which is the organization I lead. It's also the segment of entrepreneurs that we're hosting on the stage today. So what I'm going to do is have our panelists introduce themselves and introduce what their companies do. I've got a couple of questions set for them, and then we'll leave a few minutes for Q&A. But if you do have any questions, raise your hands and I'll try and field them when the conversation allows for it. Does that sound fair enough? Okay, so should we start introductions? Do we have another?
مرحبا, اسمي حازم Bawab. I'm the CEO of UBA. UBA is a software company, 15 years old. We are focused on creating business solutions in specific ERP and CRM and creating intellectual property as products that we export regionally and globally.
Good evening. My name is Ahmad Tijani. I'm the CEO of NatHealth. My company works on processing medical claims for the insurance companies and self-insured funds. We utilize the automation of the e-claim system and the smart technology.
Hello, everybody. My name is Youssef Chamoun. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Akhtaboot. Many of you know Akhtaboot as a recruitment solution provider. Partly as a result of the program that we took with AUB, we are repositioning our value proposition into an HR cloud-based software solution provider targeting the MENA region.
Hello, my name is Elie. I'm the managing partner of FOO. FOO is a digital development firm based in Beirut. We develop platforms, our own platforms, and we also service clients. So basically, we're 360-degree. We cover different digital developments from mobile to web. We also have our R&D busy currently on working on artificial intelligence and virtual reality challenges. Thank you.
I'm going to pass down the mic. Hazem to start us off. Sally, I'm going to look at you for a time. I forgot to get a watch in front of me. Hazem, just to start off the conversation, tell us what differentiates startups from scale-ups.
Startups are usually employees that are like 1 to 10 employees usually. Usually their business model is not sustainable yet. They don't have sustainability. So they either count on the founders not getting any money from their work or from funding that are from VC firms to run their firms. Scaling up businesses, which are like SMEs, true SMEs, they're usually self-sufficient. They usually have, they don't need finance to cover their operations. They should need finance to grow or access to markets to grow. So that is like the major, I think, difference between them, other than the maturity in the organization itself and how they treat their employees, how it's structured, how it should be structured, how the governance is run in those organizations, because that's needed for them to be self-sustainable. I think self-sustainability versus access to cash is one of the major things that I see in Jordan, especially in IT. And I'm talking about IT in general.
Thank you. Youssef, you guys have tried different scaling strategies at different points of time. You've either focused on geographic expansion. I think 2.5 years into setting up Akhtaboot, you actually started expanding into Saudi, and then more recently you've been expanding horizontally. Can you talk to us about both approaches and what were pitfalls and lessons learned from the different ways of scaling?
Sure. Building a bit on what Hazem was talking about, companies that scale up, effectively what they have is the correct product market fit, in my opinion. So you have a correct product market fit and you have a proven business model. So what happens then is all you have to do is more or less copy and paste, and then you're going to be able to scale. This copy and pasting process takes resources. Now, what we've done is early on in Jordan, we've achieved this product market fit and we have proven our business model. So we were looking at one of two ways to expand. The first way is expanding geographically, essentially going outside of Jordan. The second way is expanding kind of horizontally or vertically, so expanding our product line to include more services in addition to recruitment. So our first stab at scaling up was we wanted to open up an office in Dubai, which was the natural progression for a lot of companies in Jordan. That coincided with the economic downturn, so we decided to go into Saudi instead. So that was 2010, our attempt at geographic expansion. Now, some of the learnings that we went through was that when you're looking at the Arab world or the MENA region, the copy and paste scenario doesn't always work. So, and the borders aren't porous, and there are a lot of things that are similar, but at the same time, there are a lot of things that are different. And we discovered very quickly that implementing the exact same approach we did in Jordan would not effectively give us the same results in Saudi that we were hoping for. And we took a few steps back. We thought about, we're constantly thinking about what to do in terms of our next step for scaling up. And we figured that a good approach would be as well to expand our value proposition. So what we looked at is, as Akhtaboot providing generally a job board service, we are more or less a vendor for the companies that we deal with. So if you go to, for example, AUB and you're like, who's your vendor for job postings or CV search? You're like, okay, I deal with Akhtaboot. This doesn't give us the level of partnership that we're after. So we're looking at more of a strategic HR relationship with our client or our partners. And so we decided to tackle the full HR value chain, starting with hiring and ending up with retiring, and not ending up with sourcing of CVs. And we felt that with this strategic alliance, the strategic partnership approach, we were able to build more closer and deeper relationships with our partners that would help us expand both in Jordan and the region.
I think the idea of, I was talking to Saad earlier, this copy-paste across the region isn't as straightforward as one would think. Elie, your company, you had a major investor coming in earlier in this year. You had Zain acquiring a majority or a significant stake in your company. What do you think poised your company or made it interesting for Zain to come in and invest? One of the things we keep hearing about is that the large corporates aren't supporting SMEs enough, aren't acquiring the SMEs in the region, but they did in your case. So what do you think made it attractive for them?
Well, also coming back to the question you first raised, what's a startup actually? And for me, a startup is about building something, a repeatable, scalable, sustainable business model, like you said. So the thing is that we have been pivoting for the last, we started back in 2009, and we have been pivoting our business model back and forth the whole time, until we reached a very solid business model that can scale up very fast. And I think that point was very interesting and attractive for our investors. So they saw lots of potential in our business model, the new one, and they wanted actually to help out in scaling it up and to come up with platforms and innovations that are scalable and that can actually generate lots of revenues on the long term. So looking back at what happened at the transaction time, what was important for the investor is what I mentioned actually, is to have a strategic development arm next to them that would provide them with innovation and that would provide them with new sources of revenues. And for us, it was a win-win situation because we also looked at somebody who we could grow with and we could actually expand our footprint in the region. So at the end of the day, for a deal to happen, an investment to close, it should be beneficial for all parties. And everyone should benefit from that transaction. So for me, for Fu as well, we reached a place where our business model was very solid at the end. We kept on pivoting, reiterating, and we actually sought consultancy of different people in Lebanon and abroad. For example, we also consulted inventors sometimes. We also worked closely with Dr. Bijan Azad in order to review and pivot our business model. And this was very helpful because at the end of the day, it helped us understand what the market needs, and it helps us focus on what really is scalable. And this is where we are. This is why at a certain stage our revenue models are changing. We used to generate most of our revenues from servicing clients. Now this is switching actually. We're generating revenues from products that we own and that we are further developing, and products that are fully focused on 3 sectors, which is related to products related to banking, telecom, and retail. And currently we're looking into building 1 or 2 platforms that would generate monthly recurring revenues and that would position us in a very strategic place in terms of fintech in the region. So fintech is a topic that we're looking into, especially things related to peer-to-peer lending, but in a different way.
We need to connect you with Liwa.
Yeah, sure.
There. I'm going to move the mic to Ahmad, لو سمحت. Ahmad, we were chatting earlier today and you told me NatHealth has 48% of the third-party administrator market share. What were some of the drivers that allowed for you to capture that market share and scale?
First of all, NatHealth was established on an automated platform. And in 1997, this was something disruptive in the Jordanian market. And I believe if you provide something disruptive, this will help you to scale up easily. The second thing is that you have to really understand the needs of the customers. We are very customer-centric, and we try our best to meet the requirements of our clients, and at the same time hold a balance between the providers and the payers. This helped us commit to certain modes of payment at certain times. And I was just sitting with a friend of ours here from the healthcare providers, and I was very glad that he told me, I'm very happy that NatHealth pays on time at a certain time. So this is what you need to know. You have to identify what the needs of the market is and the things that drive. I like to go a little bit back and say that you can have a strategy, you can have a lot of things, but at the end of the day, if you want to really scale, people scale companies. Because if you pick the right people, you will be able to scale your company, and also the execution. Cash and strategy, you can have a strategy that does not meet the market, and at the end of the day, you end up spending a lot of money doing the wrong thing. But if you have the right people that can detect things, and that can identify what is needed, and you have a well executed plan, then you will see the growth. Now, in the life cycle of any company, you go through different stages. The most difficult stage, in my opinion, is when you reach the maturity, whereby you're doing the repetitive thing again, but you're not growing. So you face either decline or sustain, or you have to do something in order to find something new, or go geographically, as Youssef mentioned. This is the real critical time, and you have to really make your step very clear and very decisive, because any mistake will bring you down very easily.
I'm going to ask you to also elaborate on your reliance on technology. That was also a factor we had mentioned earlier in the day.
Yes, of course, in Jordan, when we started in 1997, we started with a smart technology concept, a smart card technology concept, which they just adopted 6 months ago in Jordan. Our problem was when we put the readers, and the infrastructure of the sector was not ready. So we were dealing with dial-up technology, and that made it very difficult for anybody when they put their card in the reader. It takes forever to read and to access the server. So we were there ahead of time. We came up with the idea ahead of time. But as time passed, and in 2008, we started having the ADSL infrastructure in Jordan. And things are changing now. We're seeing people, the doctors are adopting easier. Of course, there are some who refuse to, but still we're working on that. But our surprise was when we went into Palestine. And in Palestine, it's a totally paperless market. We introduced our smart cards and readers, and we put the system there. And now, in less than 2 years, we grew from 5,000 subscribers to 42,000 subscribers. It took us a lot of time when we did this in Jordan, but that tells you a lot about the infrastructure. You have to have the right ecosystem around you in order to implement an idea or a disruptive technology.
I'm going to give Hazem the chance to air the dirty laundry. What's holding companies in Jordan back? Why aren't? What's been the challenge that's the obstacles in their way to scale?
Yes, there's a lot of obstacles. And I want to reiterate on something that Ahmad said. That's really cool. Elie, who sometimes we do things that are before their time. And in Jordan, it's something that happened multiple times. And I don't think it was before its time. I don't think that we were ready for it. And if we don't improve ourselves to be ready to be the first, we will never be the first. Yani that is a point that we tried. إحنا كمان as a company, I had a very... That's another matter. Yeah. You do definitely pay for it. I want to reiterate this point عشان بال 2009 we created an app, and Elie كمان remembers this from the course. يعني. We created an app called Message, which is WhatsApp basically in Arabic before WhatsApp was there. And we went and visited maybe 6 VCs. We launched it to the App Store. We had 300,000 subscribers in a month. Our servers were failing every single day. We didn't have the money to do it. And every single person we talked to was like, what do you mean you have 300,000 users? How are you going to make your money? So you're not even thinking about how strong a user is, which is what is thought of today. And today WhatsApp was sold for about 40 billion without even having 1 penny in revenue. We never saw that. We will never see that unless we change, and we're a little bit less risk averse, and we try to get and tap into that risk market where around us Dubai is trying to do that. Across the borders here they're trying to do that, and they do it a lot. In the States, in Europe, they try to do that. We haven't done that. شوي ندخل and take risks. Regarding challenges, أنا بطلع عليهم in 3 areas. The first area is something that I've always been advocating about, which is access to finance, which is something which is a buzzword that we're using. JCP is helping us a lot بهذا الحكي. حتى Jordan Strategic Forum, which Saad is part of, is helping out with that. And we all talk about it. But if we come to the actual ground level where companies, banks, and the government are sitting on an execution table where we execute what is being said, nothing works. After I did the Jordan Strategic Forum, I went and applied for a loan for a bank, for UBA. And they actually gave me 5,000 JDs. No, not Lahli, another bank. No, not Saad. But I just wanted to try it. I just wanted to try without saying anything, without creating noise. I just wanted to go through the process and see what comes out of that process. I applied for 100, I got 5. So that is access to finance, which is something that is really something that honestly bothers us. The second part is understanding that SMEs don't realize, most SMEs in Jordan don't realize that they can scale. There is this kind of psychological statement in the head that why would you scale? Look at everybody that scaled, they failed. There's this sentiment in the market with all SMEs, if you're making X amount of money, do whatever you're doing, don't touch it. If it's broken, don't fix it. Why should you scale? So this sentiment is there because there's no real success stories that we can look at and dream to become like them. So we lack this dream that's there in Silicon Valley, that's there in Europe, and that's there a lot of other places where you see 10, 15 companies that succeeded. In my industry in particular, we've seen one success story talked about, which is Maktoub's sale to Yahoo, which Yahoo doesn't no longer exist today, but that was a success story. Everybody got excited, but then we tried with Optimiza, and that didn't help with the IPO. And I was honestly very shocked that not even one company since 2007 went IPO. I never knew that fact. And that is shocking for me as an entrepreneur, because that's one of my dreams, actually, to take my company, IPO the company, get access and grow globally. So that sentiment is also something that I see, that SMEs needs to see the potential in growth. The last thing, which is very core to my industry, is the ability to create scalable products, the know-how on how to create technology products that are scalable. This is not something, that know-how is very rare in our product managers and architects. Not developers, we have excellent developers, we have an army of developers in Jordan, and that's what we always market globally and to the region, but we really don't have people that know how to create products. We might have a couple of them, 10, 15, but that's not enough. So we have a real lack of resources, and especially in IT, you find hundreds of IT companies that are SMEs that have a so-called product, but it in reality is a custom project built for a customer, and then it was built over again, so it reached to a level where it cannot scale. And that is something that we need to address, at least in our market. Thank you.
I think the points you touched upon are common across a lot of the companies that are attempting to scale in Jordan. I'm going to move it to Elie, actually. Elie, when a person's scaling their business and you're hiring and you're expanding the team to meet the needs of the business as it's growing, what are different milestones at which point you feel that the way you do things have to change, where the challenges of managing the team change, and how did you guys experience that?
Okay, so basically our company is human intensive, so our only assets that we have are our employees. So when it comes to consulting firm, servicing business model, so you have to focus on the human capital. And growing a company from, so currently we're a team of 40 and we're still expanding. So coming from a team of 2 people, we started 2 people back in 2009. And growing the company to 40 people was a big challenge. The thing is that you think it's simple, but when you reach a phase where you're 5 employees, it's totally different than having 10 or 15 employees. There are different challenges along the way. When we're talking about 5 employees, most of them, they report to you. When you're talking about 10 employees, you have issues related to who do they report to, what do they report to, how things are working. And when you're working on 3-4 projects at the same time, then you have to have a clear structure of reporting and follow-ups on certain projects. So it becomes harder and harder. But when you reach a phase when you hit the 15 employees, you have an issue of communication inside the company. And it's a big issue, actually, because some people are working on some projects and others are working on different other challenges. And if we have a lack of communication, we end up actually having a team that's so split that they don't know what the company is currently doing. So you have to, as a manager or as somebody leading the company, you have to communicate better, and you have to actually summarize the efforts that are being done, the projects you're working on, the challenges we're facing, the vision we're aiming, the vision of the company, where we're heading to. So you have to continuously communicate that, because at a size of 15, it becomes challenging. And then you grow at a size of 25. 25 is another challenge. You have to create different departments, and the departments have to report to different people, and you have to also maintain the flexibility in the company. So you don't want a structure that's so hierarchical. You need a structure that's flexible enough in order to deliver projects fast, to be creative. So basically what we got influenced was with 2 concepts. One is chaos on the edge, similar concept to what Google does. So a kind of a flat structure, but it's organized in a way that you won't have chaos. You're at the edge of chaos, so you don't have chaos in the company, but at the same time, that chaos is promoting creativity, promoting a young spirit, it's promoting people to achieve, and they're eager actually to show their skill sets in front of everyone. So, and managing that is hard. Another thing that we also were influenced by is actually Pink's book called Drive, focusing on three things: empowering employees, focusing on mainly empowering employees. So if we empower them with the ability to do things on their own and to be accountable for their tasks, then they'll feel more committed and they'll feel part of the company more than actually delegating to them exactly what should be done. And based on those two things, we were able actually to create a culture that's interesting enough. And people who work for us are very happy working there. There are no working hours. We have a flexible working hours at FU. People can work from home. So those little things are helping them actually feel comfortable, having a feel that they're working from home and that they're part of a family, but at the same time it's a corporate.
You do need these added perks to attract the talent to the earlier stage companies from the more established businesses. So building the right culture is always key.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because most of the people we recruit are from referrals, internal referrals. And if people internally are not happy, they won't refer people to come and join us. So that's very crucial. So many companies say you should focus on the client first. In our case, we focus on the team. We make sure that the team is happy, because at the end of the day, in any school, if the teacher is happy, the students will learn and they'll be happy.
We've got customer centricity here and team centricity. So Youssef, a question for you, and it might be my last question. Huh? Yesterday you were telling me about a book that the AUB Growth Readiness Program incorporates into the curriculum, Scaling Up. And you were talking about two death valleys. Can you just describe both of these death valleys to our group, our audience, and what Akhtaboot's strategy was, or how Akhtaboot managed to overcome the first death valley?
My pleasure. The book is Scaling Up by Vern Harnish, and it was one of the books that we used for the program. And it talks about essentially what a lot of people don't know is that similar to what Hazem mentioned, everybody can scale, but scaling doesn't happen by coincidence, right? In order to scale, you need to have a roadmap. And it is an actual roadmap that you write up, you sit down and you figure out what are the steps that you need to take in order to reach your goals. And compared to a lot of the other workshops and learnings that we've been to that tackle the challenge of scaling, we thought that approach gave us the most practical approach out of all the other ones. So the combination between theory and practice was very much in favor of practice and practical approach. And one of the things that the book talks about is your valleys of death, right? And they identify the valleys of death by revenue. So you have companies, and the booklet that you have in front of you kind of touches on that as well. Your first valley of death is overcoming the chasm between revenue that is less than $1 million and revenue that is greater than $1 million. And what it tells you is that only 4% of companies in the US manage to make that leap. And that's a very small percentage that a lot of people might not be aware of. And this first valley of death comes with its own set of challenges. And some of these challenges include evolving as a company, not just as as in terms of your value proposition or in terms of you as a person, but evolving as a company beyond a company that solely relies on the founders or the entrepreneurs to get things done. So what your functional accountability chart, what it looks like when you start up, if you're a founder, generally you have 2 founders that start up companies. So sometimes you have 3 or 4 or more, but the norm I think is 2. So you have these 2 entrepreneurs filling up all the functional accountability charts for the company. So they basically do everything. Now that kind of works in the beginning when you're 2 employees, 5 employees, but when you're scaling up is not only a revenue factor of revenue, it's also a factor of employees most of the time. So when you have more people at the company, then you need to have not only departments that are autonomous and separated from the entrepreneur himself or herself. You also need to have a lot of structure for what you're trying to do. So these people need to have be accountable for their own functional accountability chart, and that is, in a nutshell, how we feel the first valley of death can be crossed. So making the leap from the entrepreneur being the joker of everything, being the accountant and the HR manager and the marketing manager and that sort of thing, into having a more systemized approach to scaling up. Now, the second valley of death essentially is making the leap from $1 million in revenue to $10 million in revenue. And if you look at the US market, 0.4% of companies actually make that leap. So that's actually a huge achievement. And if you look at companies in the Middle East, obviously this percentage is even smaller. This valley of death again comes with its own set of challenges. Once you've made the $1 million in revenue or more, then you probably have a kind of a solid structure in terms of who's accountable for what. The roadmap is clear, at least for the people that are at the helm. But when you want to grow to 50 million, or I said 10 million, right? The actual number is, it's 10, yeah, 10. So 10 million, and then after 10 million it's 50
قارين
million.
الكتاب.
هذا كنت عم بشوف. So expanding to 10, the other challenges, they come with, again, the evolution of the team themselves. So you need to have people who have kind of done this before, people who know what they're doing, people who share the vision, working on the core values, and just structuring your company in a way where you are more institutionalized, and where the CEO's job is, in my opinion, summarized in one sentence. The CEO's job is making sure that you have the right people in the right place doing the right things, as opposed to how the company starts, which is kind of like the joker or jack of all trades, which is also, again, why I also believe that sometimes, in some cases, the person that takes the company from 0 to 1 million might not be the same person that takes the company from 1 million to 10 million, or from 1 million to 50 million. So that's, in a nutshell, the two valleys of death that the book talks about.
Can I just comment? I just want to say that during our course with Dr. Bijan always put the Valley of Death slide in front of us each morning when we, so it haunted us, and nobody wants to be within the first failure. So the only thing probably, or the most thing that we remember, is the Valley of Death slide that was put there. It was a great course, and we had fun.
I really need to wrap up for Sally, but that seems to be a major takeaway for you guys from the program. But can you in one sentence say what your major takeaway was, Hazem?
Honestly, it was about two things actually. صراحة. You need structure in your execution. Entrepreneurs are not used to structure. This is very important, by the way, and it was taught by Samer and Bijan, and they were very tough about it. Structure is needed. Usually entrepreneurs wing it a lot because they're dependent on themselves. They think they internalize everything. So when my Youssef Haka, when you're like the guy doing everything, from HR to finance to sales to product development, structure and execution lacks. So from the program, when they look at you and have a really deep dive and scrutinize every single strategic decision that you have on the table, that was really fulfilling for me. And the second,
No, you're gonna say them.
The second thing is the workshop style. How we worked. We worked kind of like in teams. It was very ما بنزهق الصراحة. I didn't get bored. There was always something going on. You are part of the structure, so it wasn't like an educational course where somebody speaks and you only have to listen. It's a little bit interactive. So I like that a lot.
What we're going to end with is Ahmad's major takeaway.
I thought the negotiation part was the negotiation part was great because we learned a lot. We were under the spot. We got beaten by Youssef, by the way, on that one. But really, I learned that you have to come prepared to negotiations, and there is a structured way to do it. And after I took all the inputs, I tried it and implemented it in one of the negotiations that I had to go through, and it really worked. It worked perfectly, actually. I got what I wanted, making the other party feel that he got what he wanted. And that was great. And
You know it's a good program when people insist on talking. Youssef, your major takeaway?
Major takeaway for us was, because I think that's important, it's practical learning on how to scale up.
I apologize if I didn't leave time for Q&A. The guys will be around for the reception afterwards, and you can come up to them and ask them. Thank you.